My wife said she was working late, but her phone lit up in a restaurant with private booths. My boss called her the star of the office, but I understood what that really meant when I overheard their conversation. You know the worst part? They thought I wouldn't notice. But here's the thing. This story ends in a way they never expected. My name is Michael, and I'm 32 years old. My life was, to put it mildly, pretty smooth. A stable job at an IT company, a cozy apartment, and Sarah, my wife of 5 years. She seemed perfect. Smart, driven, and dependable. Or so I thought. Sarah worked in marketing and had always been the type of person who seemed too good to be true. Guess what? She was. The problem started a few months ago. Sarah, usually punctual and organized, suddenly began staying late at work. Not just an extra 30 minutes or an hour, but until midnight, with casual excuses like, "Michael, it's just report season, you know how it is." Sure, I knew. But Sarah had never been the type to bury herself in work. She liked her job, but not enough to live and breathe it like a college student drowning in deadlines. Then her phone habits got weird. She always kept her phone close, like it was a baby that couldn't be left unattended. Suddenly, she added a new password and switched to Do Not Disturb mode 24/7. Really, Sarah? Are you in the CIA? I'm not the jealous type, but even I couldn't ignore the alarm bells ringing in my head. Then there was her social media. Sarah had never been much of a poster, so her sudden flurry of living my best life posts with perfectly curated filters was a shock. The comments? Almost all from my boss, Greg. Greg was the living definition of a cliché. A man in his mid-40s with a permanent tan and a fake salesman's smile that could probably sell snow in a blizzard. His comments were, let's just say, less than professional. "You shine like the sun, Sarah. Such charisma, keep it up." Seriously? Those weren't compliments. They were ad slogans. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe it really was about work and not Greg's dream of starring in his own office rom-com. The final straw came when Sarah came home with a new wardrobe. She was always practical. Her go-to outfits were blouses, slacks, and comfy sneakers. Suddenly, she was walking in with dresses that probably cost half our mortgage payment. When I asked why, she casually replied, "It's for a client presentation, you know. First impressions matter." First impressions? Do we have a secret Prada sponsorship I don't know about? But the real breaking point came one night when Sarah went to shower. Her phone buzzed, and I couldn't resist looking at the screen. Greg. His name lit up like a neon sign screaming, "Michael, you're being played!" I didn't answer. I wasn't ready to confront Greg yet, but one thing became clear. All those little oddities weren't just coincidences anymore. At that moment, a chill ran through me. It felt like being on a roller coaster that had just derailed, plunging me into the void. You know that feeling when something's wrong, but you can't quite prove it? Like everything seems normal on the surface, but your gut is screaming, "There's a fire behind that door!" That's exactly how I felt. Sarah's behavior grew stranger by the day, and I felt like the lead in a detective show about to uncover something ugly. The turning point came one night. Sarah had fallen asleep, and I was alone in the kitchen, staring at her phone lying nearby like it was taunting me. It was that moment when you think, well, I'm already in hell, might as well add some fuel to the fire. I picked up her phone, unlocked it, using her usual password. Thank you, muscle memory, and opened WhatsApp. And what did I find? Nothing. The chat with Greg had been deleted. Completely. But as they say, if something's hidden, there's a reason. I dug into the archives and found a few messages. "Thanks for dinner, it really helped me figure out the project. And that was amazing. I feel like I'm growing so much professionally." Amazing? Professionally? Dinner? Is that corporate speak for "we had a date"? I stared at those messages as rage bubbled up inside me. This wasn't just an, "oh, she's annoying me" kind of anger. This was, "if I don't put this phone down, I'm throwing it against the wall." Anger. But I knew I couldn't blow up without solid proof. Be smart, Michael, I told myself. The next day, I decided to play her game. I stayed late at work on purpose to see how she'd react. Sure enough, Sarah called. Her voice was calm, but I could hear the tension. "Michael, why are you still at work? Is everything okay?" I replied with a sarcastic edge. "Yeah, everything's fine. I just wanted to see what it's like to stay late at the office all the time. It must be fascinating, considering how often you do it." Her response? "Are you kidding me? I'm just busy with work, you know that." She laughed, but it was a nervous laugh, a flimsy shield. After that, I decided I needed to stay one step ahead. I installed a location tracker on her phone through our shared Google account. Yes, I know it sounds extreme, but trust me, when your wife acts like a character in a spy novel, you need to take precautions. The next evening, I checked her location. And where was she? Not at the office. Oh no. Her phone was at a restaurant known for its private booths. Not exactly a place where people discuss budgets. But that wasn't all. Later, I stumbled upon her bank statements. Thank you, online banking. Sarah had never been one for extravagant spending, but suddenly, there were charges from expensive restaurants and, wait for it, a spa. Seriously? She told me she was working late, yet she was dropping hundreds of dollars on luxury treatments? The more I dug, the more obvious it became. Something was seriously wrong. She was either living a double life or had a very unconventional way of unwinding. But I wasn't ready to jump to conclusions. Not yet. Corporate parties are not my thing. Honestly, who actually enjoys those awkward gatherings with free finger food and forced small talk? But this time, I had a mission. To uncover what was really going on between Sarah and my boss. Sarah got ready like she was walking the red carpet. A new dress, perfectly styled hair, and makeup that probably used half a tube of highlighter. I almost told her she looked too extra for an event where the highlight would likely be a boring PowerPoint presentation from accounting, but I held my tongue. As soon as we arrived, Greg, Mr. "I have the whitest teeth in the office," was already there. He looked exactly the same, tailored suit, fake tan, and an air of self-importance that practically screamed, "I'm the star of this show." Greg immediately walked up to Sarah, completely ignoring me. "Sarah, you look stunning," he exclaimed as though I were invisible. Sarah smiled back, and I clenched my jaw, pouring myself a strong drink. Okay, Michael, I thought. Time to go into observation mode. I stayed close, but not too obvious. Greg stuck to Sarah like glue, laughing at jokes that weren't even remotely funny. And then it happened. Greg leaned in and said, "Sarah, we need to discuss next quarter's strategy. Let's find somewhere quieter." Quieter? Sure. Perfect. Sarah nodded and they disappeared. I waited a few minutes before using my ace in the hole. Earlier that day, I'd set Sarah's phone to automatically record audio when connected to specific Bluetooth devices. Thank you, technology. You're my best friend. While they talked in a nearby room, I stepped outside, pretending I needed some air. Half an hour later, they returned. Greg looked smug, like he'd just won a poker game. Sarah was glowing. She walked up to me, beaming. "Oh, Michael, you should have heard the ideas we came up with for the new project. It's going to be amazing." I nodded, but inside I was boiling. Her words sounded like a cover for something else entirely. Finally, I found a private spot to listen to the recording. And what did I hear? Greg saying, "You're doing great, Sarah. We'll talk about your promotion soon. Just make sure to keep your husband out of it. He doesn't need to know." Those words were like gasoline on a fire. I returned to the party, keeping my composure, but inside, I was ready to explode. Sarah approached me, smiling like nothing had happened. "Are you okay, Michael?" she asked. "Better than ever," I replied with a fake smile. But in my mind, I was already planning my next move. I didn't make a scene at the party. No, thank you. I'm not the type to yell at my wife in front of colleagues. Though the idea of throwing a champagne glass at Greg's head was tempting. Instead, I decided to play the long game. The next day, I took the day off. It's boring watching my life fall apart, I thought as I sat at my laptop. I started by finding a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, but a shark. The kind who could destroy anyone, even if they wore designer suits. We began gathering evidence, recordings of conversations. Check. Screenshots of messages. Check. Audio of Greg outright telling Sarah to keep her husband in the dark. Oh, absolutely. A few days later, I called Sarah for a conversation. Well, called is putting it lightly. I told her we needed to talk. She came home with her usual I'm innocent demeanor, her eyes sparkling like she'd just returned from another important dinner. I started calmly. Sarah, we need to talk, and I want you to be honest. She frowned, trying to look offended. What are you even talking about? I'm always honest. Oh, of course. How could I ever doubt Saint Sarah? I pulled out my phone and played the recording, the one where Greg talked about their professional development. Her face went pale faster than a dying phone screen. What is this? Were you spying on me? She stammered, trying to shift the blame onto me. No, just a gift from technology. Thanks, Google, I replied with sarcasm, but no anger. I was too exhausted to be angry. And then came the waterworks. Tears, sobbing, ridiculous excuses. I just wanted to be noticed, to feel valued at work. You don't understand how hard it is to be a woman in this field. Oh, she was really pulling out all the stops. But I saw through it all. I waited for her to finish her pitiful attempt at justifying herself, then said, Well, congratulations. You've definitely been noticed now. That was the end of our conversation. She packed her things and moved out a week later. And Greg? Oh, Greg. I didn't hold back. An anonymous package of evidence landed straight on HR's desk. Within a month, Greg was gone. His reputation? Ruined. Now I stand by the window of my apartment. My wife is gone, my boss is fired, and I'm alone. But this isn't a tragedy. It's freedom. Sometimes losing everything is the best thing that can happen. Yes, it hurt, but starting fresh is better than living in a story written with lies.